I've never seen RFK Jr. wearing a Apple Watch or something. I've seen him juiced. He's 71 years old. He's doing push-ups, pull-ups, bench press. He looks amazing.
Yeah.
Please prescribe some TRT for the guys.
He might wear one now. But we don't know if that's a real one.
He was taking him. He was taking meth and blue on the plane.
He was also didn't he like pop some nicotine once?
Yeah.
I think I said
Nicotine pouches.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on nicotine, by the way?
that's a whole other conversation. I think a part of me is like, I don't know enough, right? A part of me says I don't know enough. But secondarily, I have so many reservations about this movement for nicotine, because I think there is, Brian Artist talks about the snake venom, theory and things like that. And I don't know how far down the road I want to go with that person.
Brian who?
Artist, Ardis. He's one of the more kind of forward doctors that are talking about nicotine patches and things like that. I would say, well, I will say this too, because I have to. I know so many wellness and freedom influencers that smoke.
Okay.
Like, some will vaporize, right? Like tobacco. And I've interviewed them on my podcast, and they have like these big balloons. I'm like, what? I didn't ask them because I didn't want to disrespect them. I don't know what's better or worse, but these are people that are some of the most fit people that are doing something with tobacco that is obviously nicotine, that has to have some credibility. There has to be, right?
Yeah, but cigarettes are not only nicotine.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying, well, so there's people that vaporize it, and then there are people that actually smoke cigarettes that are some of the more like freedom-focused wellness influencers. Okay. And I was like, I didn't even know that until I saw it and witnessed it. And then now there's this whole emergence of nicotine patches, nicotine gum, nicotine pouches, and
Band-Aids.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all the different ways that they're trying to get it into the body. But then there's a couple things that I think about. Number one is there is some credibility to people saying that like less people that smoke got COVID, right? There's
like a correlation,
a physiological receptor-based whatever they're looking at, nicotine receptors, being a stronger relationship to the virus's ability to attack cells and things like that. I don't know what that theory is per se, but I'm hearing about it on some of the top platforms, so there's probably something there. Then I started to look at, okay, nicotine patches versus like regeneratively grown tobacco leaves, roll your own cigarettes, steep your own tea, make your own tincture. Is there validity to that? And I've read a lot of research that says like there's something about that that's really important ancestrally that people have done for many, many generations that we should pay attention to, which is why smoking likely in the tobacco industry became a thing to begin with, but then it was abused. The patches and the pouches and the gum, who makes those?
Good point.
Who? Do you know?
No.
Look it up. Who makes nicotine patches?
What companies make nicotine patches? Nicotine patches. Nicoderm CQ, Nicorette patch, Habitual, Nicoderm, Zyn, Velo on.
No, like it's not going into like the actual manufacturer, right? So if you peel that onion all the way, you know where it goes? Pharma? Pfizer, Merck, the same companies that we've been essentially fighting for how long? And in the end, it's like, why is that important? It's important because if you are then including a new intervention that may have a physiological benefit, but at the root of where it's actually sourced and coming from goes back to the same devil that we're supposed to not be dancing with, then that's really, really important. Now, with that said, that's the same with any other drug, right? Are all drugs bad? Are all pharma products bad? If it saves your freaking life, like you should probably be grateful that that thing was invented.
Just don't take it on a daily basis. Change your lifestyle.
But there should be a equally effective avenue to say, here's how you prevent that in the future. Here's how you get off of this thing after they save your life, right?
One whole egg.
So I would say it's the same for me. Like most of the nicotine patches, are those synthetic or are those organic? they're all synthetic, right? And if they're all synthetic, then they're all going to go back to the chemical and the pharma industry. And that's the thing that I have as a line, right? So on this side, it would be, where's the regenerative product? Where's the one that's actually ancestrally based that can be good and healthy for myself and my family, that can also get us across that bridge, whether it's some of the reports showing that children with autism benefiting from a nicotine patch between their shoulder blades, right? Some that have severe motor issues, some that have severe speech issues, some that have severe challenges, that just 3.5 milligram patch between their shoulder blades helps them regulate. I'm not going to be the person that says, never do that, mom. I'm going to judge you for doing that, mom, because I'm not that mom, right? But in my opinion, that has to be forward, right? If they're saying, oh, go get that rugby patch, well, who makes that thing? Where's that money actually going to?
Is there any beneficiary of autism? Does Big Pharma benefits from autistic kids?
What do you think? What's the cure?
What's the cure? Is there a cure?
Conventionally, what's the cure?
I have no idea.
There's no cure.
Okay, so
You're just in the rat race forever, right? You're forever a psychiatric patient. You're always going to be drugged. You're always going to go to a
they get
rigmarole
drugged?
yeah.
Autistic kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
To get to calm down?
To self-regulate their system, depending on what's core, depending on what's ancillary. Some of them will have, some drug for their nervous system, and then they'll have a side effect of antidepressant. Then they'll be on antidepressants. After that, they'll have constipation, so they'll be on a drug for constipation, and then on and on and on, right? So why did they, before COVID and then during COVID, why did they censor solutions, things that healed autism? Because they know there's a cure. They know there are multiple avenues of nervous system self-regulation, but they censored them. And so we know, follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
We know, follow the control and the tyranny. The third thing that I started to just marinate on during COVID was follow the censorship. Once they started to censor, what's one of the things that they censored in 2021?
Ivermectin?
No, I would say deplatforming for. Deplatforming for was the COVID shot's effect on women and cycle dysregulations, miscarriages, those types of things. That was one of the biggest waves of that. Why did they censor? What the reason why, when they censored that, it was so clear as day, right? It was so clear as day that they were showing their cards. When they censor you, that they're hiding a version, not the whole truth, but a version of the truth that should make you look further.
No, they just
So before COVID, they were censoring vaccines and autism, right? You used to Google back then, do vaccines cause autism? Vaccines are safe and effective. That now they sometimes have to show that vaccines do cause neurodevelopmental problems, right? Sometimes Google will even present that information. But they were censoring before COVID books that were saying, I healed my son from autism. And when they censored the solution, that's really important. So if they censor the cause and people keep doing the cause, and if they censor all solutions, kids stay in the system forever, right? Why do we have 1 in 20? Was it 1 in 22?
1 in 33 girls and 1 in 31 boys? No?
It's in
30%?
in the nation, it's 1 in 32 total.
Mm-hmm.
In California, it's 1 in 22 boys, and 1 in 22.
Yeah, it's even more kind of.
And then with boys, it's like 1 in 12 right now in California.
California autism rate.
And so in the end, it's one of those things. It's really, really important to see this and recognize this hockey stick trajectory
from the 80s.
epidemic. And if they censor the cause and if they censor a solution, that you should look further. And so to me, I'm not here to say that if a mom chooses to do nicotine patch for their kid with autism, that's a bad decision. Every family needs to make the decision that's going to work. I love the fact that there are some wellness influencers and some communities like Human Garage put that out recently, that the nicotine patches are really, really effective. And I subscribe to a lot of what they put out. I'm just also weary where that money goes, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that I won't do it one day. I am saying that we should also look at what is that intervention, and then how was that intervention raised? Like, how was it produced? How was it manufactured? How was it developed? Is it more ancestral or is it more synthetic? If it's more ancestral, it goes in nature. If it's synthetic, where does it go? And it almost always goes to foreign.
Short answer. In California, roughly 1 in 19 children, 2022 data, are diagnosed with autism. Nationally, boys are diagnosed at a rate about 3.4 times higher. 1 in 19. And in 80-something, 1 in 1,000. Someone saying even 1 in 10,000.
Yeah, so I thought it was 1 in 22. It's 1 in 19. So what is the rate of autism in boys in California? What does it say? It says 3 or 4 times higher, so that's what, 1 in 6?
Autism prevalence among 8-year-olds in California. Overall rate across monitoring sites, 1 in 31. California's specific rate is notably higher, approximately 53.1 per 1,000, which means 1 in 19.
Yeah.
So 1 in 31 is statewise,
Yeah.
1 in 19 California.
It's crazy.
Almost freaking twice.
Yeah.
In the best state, I want to say.
Yeah.
Climate-wise, sun-wise, you get and twice.
The most amount of what? Tyranny. Right?
Correct. You can go to school if you don't have all those vaccines to do for your kids. How is it freedom? Can you explain to me?
It's not. It's not. California is the greatest producer of medical refugees, I would argue, in the world. Right? The mass exodus, like this is a calculable attrition in my clinic, right? I've been teaching a vaccine workshop. I just taught one last week. I've been teaching a vaccine workshop for at least 15 years. And I would teach them to parents that still, I used to call it the most asked and not asked question, right? And why this is important is if you like recognize just how like crazy like this world has become, especially in California. The more I teach, the more people leave. The more I teach, the more people are like,
stop teaching.
We're going, and then that's the thing. It's like how do you, right? How do you stop if you know something, right?
You can't.
You experience it yourself. In my opinion, if I stop, I just become part of what's complicit, you know?
Because it's with the kids. It messes with the kids, not with just grown-ups. Stop smoking. Oh, you can do whatever you want, right? Yeah. It's the kids.
Yeah.
And right now, I believe if AB 495 is going to be passed, it's going to cause mass exodus from California. So I just interviewed Nicole Pearson, and she told me this possible scenario of AB 495 being passed. Yeah. It's horrendous.
It's
anybody can take your kid from school, and you're done.
At this point in California, it's pretty remarkable, right? And this is me definitely not leaving the fight, right? But it's really important to recognize that when I interviewed Tom Cowan recently, Dr. Tom Cowan, arguably one of the more just grounded, truthful medical doctors that exist today.
What's the last name?
Cowan, Cowan. He wrote the book, The Truth About Contagion. He's one of the medical doctors that's highlighting the fact that vaccines have never been shown to be, proven to exist by the scientific method. But he said to me once that I thought was really, really important, the people that can actually stand in the nuance. He said, is there any blessing, and I'm paraphrasing, is there any blessing to mandates? And I said, no. At first I was like, no, what could be the blessing to that, right? And he just told a story about a kid that ended up on his farm to help grow and help work. But he was on scholarship at a major university on the East Coast. And because of the mandates, he lost his scholarship because he wasn't gonna comply. Ends up leaving his program, ends up working on his farm, ends up for an entire period of time. I don't know if it was a summer, I don't know if it was a couple years, but learning how to build, learning how to plant, learning how to do things that helped him remember maybe something that he wanted to do with his life in the future. Maybe he didn't know was possible. Maybe but it was because of the mandate that trajectory changed his life. I think what happens to many of us, and I again, I'm not judging parents for what they choose to do, but when they show you their cards over and over and over again, and they show you that they're only going to take more, right? like Bobby said, right? They're going to strip your rights. They're going to maximize the stripping of the rights. First, it was vaccines, right? It wasn't vaccines exemptions until 2015. Before that was AB 2109, where they just had a little bit of a paper that you had to write, I resist vaccines. It was a written statement. The parents are like, why do I have to show you on record that I'm going to do this? I could just choose not to do vaccines. But it was a small administrative change that in 2018, 2019, SB 276, where they stripped doctors of their right to give medical exemptions, that you start to see, right? So they take one right and they maximize it to the end of the day, but they never give that one back to you.
Never.
Then they go to what? Then they're talking about trans, and they're talking about parental rights, right? But where did that start? There are some schools that weren't allowed to give parents report cards of kids older than 12. That was like, I didn't know that. I didn't have children when I was advocating for a lot of these families and vaccines. And I started to meet a lot of homeschool, and they were teaching me like, yeah, some schools, like they have policies that say at 12 years old, parents have to ask the children for consent for their report cards. But what does that lead to? Now that leads to a 12-year-old that can consent for their HPV shot or any other sexually transmitted vaccine on their own in a hospital, in a healthcare office, right? But now they can actually, before it was like the laws, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, where they said, 12-year-olds could essentially say that they're not like their parents aren't their parents. But now they've gone further. They're going further that it doesn't matter. Somebody doesn't even have to show ID. They can just go to your school. So what's then the message? What's the blessing of that? It doesn't seem like there is any, except maybe it's leaving the state, but maybe it's leaving the system. And I'm not saying that, parents that choose, and like if you can't homeschool, if you can't do those types of things, but what we often don't allow us to do is create that next version of the earth that we should actually be working on, right?
But they're about to destroy homeschooling and charter schools
Oh,
with
they're doing
AB
that too.
84.
So that's what's next, right? AB 84 is like they're going after charters and things like that. So maybe it is leaving the state, or maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. But if we continue to stay in that one vehicle, right? If you only stay in the vaccine advocate and they're just tsunami waving you, and then they go into the next one, then the next one, maybe it's actually public school. Maybe it's the whole system that needs to come down. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think in the end, it's wild, right? Because in California, like I said, the greatest producer of medical refugees, but it's also now educational refugees.
Well, you see, I don't have any problems with the parents or adults taking vaccines or not taking vaccines or pills. You just show us the truth, right? This cause this. Side effects are these. This is cause this or that. This can happen. Then you choose. I still want to do it. No, thank you. I'm not going to do it. But they're not telling us the truth. They're hiding the truth.
They know the truth, but they have no incentive to tell the truth, right? They have no incentive to tell you what's there. And without the liability, that's the name of the game. If there's no liability, if you can't sue, then there's no way there's no room for transparency. There's no room for integrity, and there's no room for accountability. There's no possibility for those without liability. Until we restore liability to these companies, they're never going to do it, right? Part of my workshop is Takata airbags, car seats, McDonald's. They used to have those little fake Fitbits where I think they had something like 10 kids develop a rash and they recalled 100 million of them or something like that. 100, I can't remember the number, but like, it's crazy that like airbags can cause injuries in 10 people and 1 death. They recalled the airbag, right? 1 death. COVID shot, 38,000 documented on VAERS. That's arguably 10 to 100 times that number. We know globally it's billions of people that were injured or worse. And it's still there. It's still on the market. They're not recommending it in the States for pregnancy and kids anymore, right? Thank you for that. I like the fact that they say that. But why is it on the market? Why is it still there? Why is it available?
Because people are still buying.
Well,
if people buy your product, how can you pull that?
No, I'm saying if the government, right, is going to do something right by the people, right, and they're going to do what they say that they were going to do in terms of
Has there ever been
installing a
a
new.
precedent like that? That government did something so good for the people?
Well, the swine flu of 1976,
Tell me the story.
there was a handful of people that died, and they pulled it from the market.
Really?
Yes,
76? That was
76. Yeah.
Carter?
I can't remember.
Liability law 1986, Reagan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we've been told he's one of the greatest of all time, right?
Well, when you read, oh gosh, where did I hear that recently? There was a backstory about why. I think it was Bobby that shared about it. I'd have to reference that and find that where I saw it once, where he told the backstory and what was happening and why they made. He was talking about the 1986 Act when they made the vaccine court. Right, there was intention behind the vaccine court that you don't sue the pharmaceutical companies, you sue the government. And when you sue the government, you sue HHS. When you sue HHS, because he's like, you sue me, right? And he was talking about back then, the way that it was written and the intent, the spirit of the law behind it was that if there was ever a question, and it was like, okay, the evidence that we're providing, that there's a tie, which it's a toss-up. We don't know if it's the injured party is just something the parents are claiming, or if it's actually something that the vaccine is responsible for. They would say they would believe the mother, the tie would go to the runner. That was the spirit of the law. And then it obviously changed, right? They were supposed to do annual safety surveillance. They were supposed to continually show safety data, but without the liability, it all morphed into different ways that it actually came out, where it's like being interrogated. You talk to some people that have court cases with, the vaccine court, and it's like there's like an interrogation process. Meanwhile, their child is injured or worse, right? The parents are suffering, families split, and they're actually fighting for their children's rights and their lives, and they're being interrogated by the system.
But even
That's
if
not
you
who it
win,
was supposed to be.
but even if you win the court, you sue the government, right? Government pays the fine, and government does not have any money, right? It's whose money? Government.
Yeah.
It's our money, right? It's taxpayers' money.
It's a tax of like something like 75 cents per vaccine, something like that. 75 cents per vaccine that we pay, but the government doesn't pay. It's us. So the taxpayers are paying for the injury of the product made by the industry.
And if parents sues the government, and let's say they get $10 million, they get it from your money because you paid the taxes.
Yeah.
Because the government has zero money on their own.
Yeah.
It's all tax money.
So then the parents are essentially paying for their children's injury, right?
It's not only America, right? This is the entire world.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where there's liability, where there isn't liability, honestly, internationally. I've never actually studied that.
Did you watch Black Mirror season 7?
I didn't.
You didn't watch the first episode?
Mm.
You should definitely watch it. So the whole season is not that great, but the first episode. So I'm not even gonna ask you this question. Please just watch season 7, episode 1, and once we do the trilogy, I'm gonna ask you one specific question in regard to that episode.